This is the Genki Shadowcast. If you're not familiar with what this product is, it is a device that will let you use your laptop's monitor to hook up to your Switch or other console. This is their Kickstarter page, and it well surpassed what they originally were asking for. I was an early adapter, so I've already received my device, so let's take a look at it more closely and see if it's worth your investment. Okay, so this is the package it came in. Pretty sturdy bubble wrap. So I'm going to open it up here. Probably should have got a knife. Yeah, the tape wraps around the front, so that's good. Okay, so here's the box. Typical boxing with the picture on top, shrink wrapped. Got the little slider. The inside box slides out. And on the back here, it's got a description of all the different uses for it. Let's see. Oh, nice little tuck in up. Oh good, there's not tape on that. I always hate it when they put tape on that. Okay, so here's the inside of it. Looks like this pops out of the center here. Oh, got a little reinforced cardboard behind it. Okay, so this is the device. It's got the HDMI input, and that's the part that goes into your console. So if you're using a Switch, you'll have to have a dock because there'd be no port on the Switch itself to hook it into. And then USB-C cable connects there, which it comes with, which is good. It's always nice when they actually include the cable. Well, let's see what kind of cable it is. So it looks like it has a right angle on it. Yeah, so there's that right angle, and then the other end is also C. So if you're going to use this on a PC that doesn't have a USB-C port on it, you'd have to have an adapter. In which case, it might not work depending on the speed it needs to run at. So I'll give that a test try and see what happens. Yeah, you get your nice little sticker and a manual, which probably about 2 pages of it is in English, and then the rest of it's other languages. So not a whole lot to that. Here's an up-close look at the device. One side of it is completely opaque, and the other side's sort of smoky, translucent. The device uses HDMI on one side, and that's the side that will go into like the Switch dock or the back of your console. And the other side is the USB-C port. This doesn't require an extra power adapter, which is nice. It'll pull power directly off the USB-C port. So that's one less cable you would have to hook up. Here is one more look at everything that came in the package. There was one more sticker that was inside of the outside bubble wrap package that was not inside the box. And that's this Dark Samus sticker. I believe they have some limited stickers that they're putting in each shipment of different devices. So if you order this, do make sure you check out and don't miss out on the sticker and throw it away. Here's a look at their website. They have an application to download that if you go to Shop and then under Shadowcast, they have the Mac, Windows, and Chrome versions here. Now, they're advertising that you need to use their software in order to get an improved latency, but we're going to test that out here in just a minute. The first time you launch this, you may get a warning from your antivirus. This is what I got from Defender. But I was able to click on more information and then choose the run anyway. If you're using a different antivirus, you'll probably have something very similar. You may have to add an exception in. But I think one of the things that may be causing this is if you look at the properties of the file, you'll notice that there's not a certificate on it. This is an example of another file that I'm looking at. You can see how on the application for the Genki software, the certificate tab is completely missing. So I think that's what this is. You should be fine going ahead and allowing it to run. I don't think there's any security issue with the software. Here's a closer look at the software. Now, right now the switch is not connected to it, but as we're sitting here, I'm going to connect it to the computer. You'll see the screen goes black, and now you're going to see the switch come up, and there it is. Now, move around the menus, so this is all working fine. If you go with your mouse over the upper left corner, you'll get some options. Not a whole lot here, but if you use the Konami code with your computer's keyboard, the up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, as soon as you do that, when you come back over to the menu, you'll have some more options. Now, there used to be a recording function in the older version of the software, but they seem to have removed that, and I think it's because the recordings were not very good, so I hope it's something that they'll bring back in the future. If you want to change from this windowed mode to full screen, just double click inside the window anywhere, not the title bar at the top, but just anywhere inside the window, and it'll expand out to full screen. So something I noticed right away as I was in the menus, I was noticing a clicking sound with my button was trailing when I actually hit the button. So I wanted to give you a visual and audio representation of that to give you an idea of how the delay feels. So this is the switches menu where you can see the buttons being hit and hear the response. So I'm going to let this play for just a minute while you listen. I will also add that I was using a wired controller for this demonstration, so there's no latency factored into a wireless controller. So I wanted to get a better idea of what the latency was, so I took the output of my switch dock and ran it into an HDMI splitter, and one of the outputs of the splitter goes to my TV and the other goes to the Shadowcast. So all I am measuring is the difference between the TV and the Shadowcast. Any latency that might have been introduced by the splitter would be the same amount of latency going into both devices. As you can see here, the Shadowcast is about 1/10 of a second longer in delay than what my TV has. Now my TV is in what's called game mode, which is a low latency mode, which any gamer would make sure their TV is in that mode. So what I am seeing, again, is about 1/10 of a second or 100 millisecond increase in delay over what my TV has. The previous shots were in performance mode, and the ones you're seeing now are in resolution mode. And as you can see, the latency is still about 1/10 of a second or 100 milliseconds. So the mode really didn't make any difference. I also tried other frame rates, and that didn't help either. So I want to show a little bit of gameplay. This is from the Xbox Series X, and it actually looks fairly good. I don't have much to complain about that. There was a little bit of a stutter there, but I think that was because my Xbox was downloading another software in the background. It may come across a little bit grainy in the compression through YouTube, but overall I'm actually not too upset with the quality. The video does not seem to me like it's going 60 frames per second, but I'm not the best judge at that. But overall, I think the quality still looks fairly good and is definitely playable as far as the picture quality. So let's take a look here at Streets of Rage 4. One thing that you can tell is this is a little less high quality visuals, so it's a little bit different type of game. And as I started playing this, one thing that I noticed right away is that the responsiveness of the D-pad is very noticeable. The latency from pressing left and right and up and down, you can definitely feel that in the controls, and makes it pretty noticeable. Kind of quickly adapted as I was playing this because I don't need to really respond real quickly on any of this, but it still is pretty noticeable how much of the delay there was. So back in November, I bought a cheaper USB capture card, and I've been using that to do some streaming and some video capture, and the latency on that was pretty terrible. So I decided I would see what the difference between these two devices are. And what I found was a little bit surprising, to say the least. So again, I took my HDMI splitter and I have one of the inputs going into the cheap USB capture card and the other one goes into the Shadowcast. And on my Xbox, I used the web browser to go into a website that would pull up a timer. And I let the timer run. And as it was running, I had the Genki Arcade up and I had OBS up at the same time. Genki Arcade was showing the video from the Shadowcast and OBS was showing the input from the cheap card. And I took a screenshot. So this timer's running. I hit the print screen button and captured this. I did this several times. I've got two samples here. But as you can see, the latency ended up being exactly the same on both of them. So I really saw no difference or improvement using the Genki Arcade over the cheaper USB capture card. I even thought, well, I must have done something wrong, so I unplugged the inputs one at a time to make sure that the proper input dropped out. So I unplugged the Shadowcast, saw the video go out. I unplugged the cheap USB capture card, saw the video go out. So I knew I had the correct inputs on the screen. So to me, I see no real difference in the latency between either of these devices. Now, I was unable to get the Shadowcast to work with my Chromebook. It appears like it may have had an issue powering the device. As you can see here, when you plug it in, the light turns on for just a split second and then cuts right back off. So that may have just been some issue with my laptop. I'll have to look into that a little bit later. Here's a final look at their website. I've got a link to it down in the description below, as well as several other links and references. The device really isn't that expensive, but if you do get it, don't expect a low latency experience. The quality's pretty good. Now, there's always a possibility they may do an update and improve latency. I know they updated the software from 1.1 to 1.2, and it did seem to shave about 20 milliseconds off of the latency. So there could be hope they might do more, but I have a feeling that recoup of latency came from the removal of the recording functions of the software. So this video is a remake of one that I did earlier. If you saw that video before, the audio was really terrible. It was the first video I ever did, and I didn't have things set up properly. But I wanted to get the information out there to people, and I appreciate all of you who watched it and all the positive feedback I got. So I decided I'd go ahead and create a new video and make it just a little more presentable. So if you watched the other one and you watched this one, I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, give it a thumbs up if you like it. Consider subscribing. I want to keep trying to get more content out. And I really appreciate your viewing, and be good.